Now, 10 days on, and China is still reeling from the earthquake that struck at the heart of Sichuan province. From the ground, we've seen scenes of apocalyptic devastation. From the skies, new satellite pictures from NASA reveal the true extent of the damage in the worst-hit area of Beichuan. Here you can see a river running through a forested mountain area 2 days after the earthquake, and the area is unrecognizable. The quake triggered massive landslides, wiping out all that was there before it. Now, this image shows two small villages next to the river, and after the quake, the area is completely submerged. All across Sichuan, whole villages were wiped out in a matter of moments.
Well, after the earthquake, China's Premier Wen Jiabao announced cuts to overall national spending in order to raise a $10 billion fund for reconstruction. But no amount of money can compensate for the lives that have been shattered. 50,000 people are now thought to have died, and among the 5 million homeless, despair is turning to anger. Tony Cheng reports.
A look of anguish on a relative's face, an all too common sight in Sichuan. At Dongqi Middle School in Hanwang, family members wait for their loved ones, but they're not even allowed to say goodbye. The school, like so many, crumbled in the quake. The heavy equipment has now moved in. There's no hope of finding anyone left alive. This man lost his son in a school building, and now his grief is turning to anger.
What I want to say is that I'm so disappointed in the local authorities. They didn't pay attention to the quality of the schools. They didn't care about the students' lives.
So are there any clues in the rubble left behind? It's very noticeable when you're at the heart of the earthquake zone that some buildings remain completely untouched. In this case, an apartment block owned by PetroChina. Not even the windows are broken. And yet, when you cross to the other side of the street, you're left with nothing but complete and utter devastation. Many of these buildings were nothing but brick and mortar, and those made of concrete lacked the steel framework to survive the quake. And the quality of the concrete may well have been poor. When the earth shook, it just turned to dust.
The buildings swayed enough, and they didn't have enough connectivity. They didn't have the beams and the columns didn't have enough reinforcing steel connecting them to each other, and they just simply fell apart.
Many of the hardest hit towns were high in the mountains of Sichuan. Not only did the buildings collapse, but the surrounding hills fell in on them too. And with destruction on this scale, the towns will have to be rebuilt from scratch, and the communities that lived there rehoused on safer ground.
If they were to somehow locate those schools, especially higher up on the hillsides, above a lot of the large rocks that tended to come down and crush some of these buildings, some of these schoolhouses, I think that would help.
The cleanup operation is now in full swing and happening remarkably fast. But as China's authorities start the difficult process of rebuilding, they'll have to learn the lesson that fast and cheap is not always best. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera, Sichuan Province, China.